Bear, what are you doing? Come here. Get over here, buddy. You're gonna come over here? All right. Good morning. I'm outside today because it's nice out and sunny out and all the good things. It looks like my dog's not going to join me though. He likes to sit by the fence, which is his prerogative. He can do that. But some of the things I want to look at this morning that I've been kind of thinking about and wrote up a little bit that's worth taking a glance at. Yes, big bounce last night. I mean, nowhere near the loss we had, of course, but kind of felt that way. I put a poll out yesterday on Twitter about that to see if we're going to bounce and get back to basically open up higher today, and wasn't a huge poll. I think we got 71 respondents, something like that. But most people said, yeah, not by a great margin, though. Said, yeah, we'd be higher by the open. It looks like we're going to be that way. I think SPUs are up by almost 1% right now, so they're getting there. That VIX movement yesterday was freaking insane. That was crazy. We had like a 48% move, something like that in VIX futures. They took out the rally yesterday in VIX futures, took out 2.5 months worth of fall. So we went down for 2.5 months, took it all back in basically a day. That's kind of insane. Something I saw this morning that was an interesting tweet from. I'm gonna totally mess up his name, but I talk to him on Twitter all the time. I've never actually got his name correct, probably, but it's Sheplick. It's at SCHEPLICK. He tweeted this morning about most of the gains in the stock market occur overnight, which seems like a really strange anomaly. Why does that happen? And it happens though. A lot of the futures movements overnight. A lot of stuff, the OTC stuff happens overnight. A lot of weird things go on at night. And I remember a tweet from a handful of years ago, 5-6 years ago. Someone put out a tweet with some pretty good numbers on it that actually showed that the biggest move in the S&P 500, if you break the S&P 500 E-mini down by hour throughout the 24-hour day, and obviously it's closed from 4 to 5 Central Time, but if you break it down throughout the hour, the biggest advancing hour, the most gain that it's recorded over the last 20 years in a single hour frame has been like, I think it was 2 a.m., from 2 to 3 a.m., which kind of roughly correlates with when Europe's opened up. So Europe kind of opens up and gets their books all sorted out and figured out, and that's when that is the single strongest hour for the S&P 500, the futures market, which is kind of strange to think, but that's the way it works out. So I want to share that. Keep an eye on that. And actually, I wonder how you kind of play that. Do you play that? Do you care? I mean, a lot of us, like me, most of my stuff, my retirement money is in, someone else manages it anyway. I don't really care. They'll take care of the old stocks. They take care of it, and it's all managed. But trading it, I'm not terribly interested. I am up at that hour sometimes, not too often, but it seems like a kind of a reach. I could run some algos that time, and sometimes I've done that. Run some algos, run overnight based off of movement. You can actually try and capture it that way. Do whatever you want to do, but I'm just curious how people try and capture. Are you interested in capturing that? Is it worth staying up until 2 o'clock to try and trade SPUs at 2 o'clock in the morning because that's the strongest hour of the day? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But there are some other interesting markets that are moving, in the middle of the night. And KOSPI is still going. And KOSPI trades in the European or in the Asian hours, basically. It's a Korean exchange, but it's a really hot market that moves an awful lot. You can get into, now you're into the opening of the DAX, mini DAX. Mini DAX volume has picked up quite a bit. I think it's pretty much tied up closely to the big DAX contract. So you, instead of trading the big DAX, which I know is an expensive contract and it's gappy a little bit, you can trade the mini DAX at Eurex, which has great liquidity. It's really thick, so that's a nice little contract to trade. Other ones that are going on that time, Euro stocks is trading, of course. So there's a lot of stuff you can get into. You can trade FTSE 100. That's an interesting market in itself too. OMXS 30. That's a NASDAQ EU. That's a really interesting market. That one's moving that time of the day, so you can get into that. My glasses are really dirty. So there are interesting markets to be trading at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not doing it. I've done it. I've jerked the European ship for a long time ago. I worked for a shop that had me actually work the Asian desk for several months, and then go and work the European desk for several months. So I've traded those markets, done all that type of stuff. So it's interesting. It's fun. It's nice to kind of stretch your legs and do different things sometimes. We just talked about Asia a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more. I put together a spread last night that hopefully I'll tweet out next week in the corporate handle, the TT handle, that shows an Ironore spread. I figured out and got working an Ironore spread where you're trading Ironore at DCE, Dialing Commodity Exchange in China, and then actually you're quoting in SGX. You're quoting Ironore in SGX Singapore, and then you're going to hedge into DCE and Dalian. When you're spreading into the Chinese markets, you want to be real careful about some things. One of the things is the fact that they've got really strict quoting limits, so you don't want to overquote there. If you overquote during a session, they shut you off the entire session. So that's a big no-no. You don't want to do that. But that's a nice little spread. Liquidity right now, liquidity is really strange in Ironore, and that's why it's been hard to get a spread working in there, because liquidity generally is in the front months for Ironore at SGX, while it's in the deferred contracts at Dalian and Dalian Commodity Exchange. So it's kind of come together a little bit right now. There's good liquidity in SEP in both. SEP is definitely the thick contract at DCE, and it's picked up a lot of volume recently in SGX in Singapore as well. So that's a nice spread. It's a really nice trade. It's interesting. It's fascinating. But I had it running last night, and I'm going to tweet out some stuff on that hopefully next week. So looking forward to that. That goes along with some of the spreads we already have in China that we put together. Some of the spreads I've got that are interesting to look at there's obviously the crude spread. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with crude in China, and I'm going to get into that. But the most natural spread is spreading sour crude, SC, Shanghai crude, whatever you want to call it, at Shanghai International Energy Exchange, at SHFE. Shanghai Futures Exchange has a division called International Energy Exchange in Shanghai. You can spread that contract. It's the same type of purities in the Brent crude contracts. So that's a nice spread already. I think I've tweeted about that, but I'll probably tweet it out again before long. Other spreads that are interesting, I had a talk with someone about last night too, but I've put this together in the past. I put together a rubber spread between INE. Rubber is also offered at INE, which makes sense because synthetic rubber is made out of crude, made out of oil. So you can spread rubber into TOCOM, and I think I've tweeted that one out before. The Tokyo Commodity Exchange. You can also spread that into SGX, the rubber contract there. I haven't put that one together yet, but I will. But it got me thinking also about this big PTA contract. There's a contract called PTA that's at the Zhangzhou Commodity Exchange, ZCE. I can't pronounce that one. But it's a huge contract, really liquid, really thick, really big. I've always wondered, how are people spreading this thing? How are they trading? Because I know what the actual underlying product is. It's called PTA, which is plastic water bottles. Think about it that way. It's the plastic you put in water bottles that you get these ratings. It's got a PTA, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be safer and clean. Well, that contract is traded at ZCE in China. We have access to that. You can get to that. Now what I'm trying to work through is, I spoke with a trader last night who's done this type of trading before. He spreads that into crude because crude was naturally related to it. What got me thinking about it last night, I was looking at the Chinese markets and saw that both PTA and sour crude dumped heavily on the open last night, and they both bounced back pretty much in unison. So it got me thinking there's got to be a good spread there. So I'm going to try and put together a spread with that too this week and see how that kind of comes out. So those are the kind of things I'm looking at. Back in the U.S. markets, there's not much going on today. It's pretty quiet. It's sun shining nice outside. You might want to get outside, try and enjoy yourself, and have something better to look at than myself. There's my dog. Baby, what are you doing? There you go. There's the good guy. All right. With that, I'm going to log out. Got anything to ask? Got anything you want to talk about? Shoot me a line and happy to talk about it. Bye.